This is eCommerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward Unlimited. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of eCommerce Uncensored. This is episode number 101.
And the last one for 2018.
You interrupted my intro.
Oh, sorry.
Now you've ruined it. Now I have to...
What, were you going to say that?
My name... No, I have to say my name, remember? This is how we do it.
But I just was going off of what you just said, so...
My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with...
Jason Caruso.
And Paul Chu.
Maybe eventually, maybe around the 201 number, you'll understand how this works.
Yeah.
And the intro and stuff that we've been doing for 2.5 years.
Probably won't.
He'll always interrupt you.
It could be 300. It's going to be the same.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it on the last episode, too, but you did the same thing.
I did?
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't realize that I had to wait for you to introduce to say something.
I'm
that's
just
all.
kidding. You're good. Perfectly fine. I'm just busting you.
Well, this is our last one, and we hope that you enjoyed the last one, which is 100, which that was like a milestone for us. Because we didn't think we were going to get to 10.
No. There was, I think around episode like 50 or 60, we're like this.
That's definitely where we were going to quit. But I'm glad that we stuck it through, and I think it goes to show you that, you know, having faith in what you're doing and sticking it through. Like, that's like the biggest lesson, I think, for anybody who's running a business or starting a business. It's just like sticking it through. And it's a lesson that's so easy but so hard.
Yeah. It's hard to stay consistent and be disciplined. Force yourself to do something that you know.
Yeah, we definitely learned a lot of lessons with this thing. It's not fast.
Yeah, not at all. And content, just people are so, they hold on to what they have in their brains so tightly that they feel like they're giving something away for nothing when they just talk about stuff like this or give away content or write blogs. Or it's so important to just like share this kind of stuff that we talk about or whatever your business is with the world, and it'll come back around.
Yeah, you know, it's a good lesson, because I think when I first got into this stuff, I kind of thought the same way. But if you take a look at this podcast and you think about it, right, like 99.999% of the people will never hire you anyway. But the people who have hired us have been like big players, except of course the skincare line before that was like when we first got started. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we've been, you know, it's like most people won't hire you or us, but the people who have money, they don't want to try to figure out what you're telling them to do. Right. They just want to hire you to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a good lesson if you're, you know, your store, or maybe you're selling your services or something like that. You know, most people won't buy from you, but it's the 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 that kind of make it all worth it. Same thing like with people listening to us.
Yeah. And I think this episode, we're going to talk about, we're going to, you know, kind of make it a little bit more transparent about what we're doing and the process we're going through, because we're constantly learning how we're going to evolve this podcast, how we're going to evolve the content that we have huge conversations about how we're going to manage our social media, how we're going to reach out to the right people that we want to talk to, and what
how
message
we're going to help
we're gonna
people.
Do.
You know, I mean, we've always defaulted to our experiences, you know, and, you know, I think it's really served us well, because it's not like we're like making stuff up just to like talk. I mean, we make the topics up out of thin air, but it's really, you know, the stuff we're going through. And what we're going to talk about today, I think, is, you know, we're going through some growing pains here, and we're learning every day, and we're implementing new strategies every day, and it's actually making us better and better every day, so to speak, right? Yeah. And today's episode, I think, is really going to just hit, like, kind of like bring all that together, right?
But first, who is it? Klaviyo.
Klaviyo,
our favorite email marketing platform.
You know it. eCommerceUncensored.com/email will take you. It will redirect you to Klaviyo. You sign up. It's for free. You can sign up with anything under $250.
Yeah.
It's not under $250. It's $250 and under. And man, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, go listen to it, because one of our listeners actually listened to us, took our advice, went to Klaviyo, and now he's making a ton of money.
Yeah, we could talk about it all we want, but you know, when you hear it, someo's personal experience and how much success they're having with it,
and how much success I'm not having over
with
here.
your pants.
Right.
But yeah, definitely go back and listen to that. But Klaviyo, not only is Klaviyo a great platform with email, they're developing like some really strong
And they're
content.
just awesome people.
Yeah,
They really are.
The stuff that they put out, and they're really rolling that out. We talked to our contact at Klaviyo, and they're really pushing out like a lot of value stuff to help you along the way. It's not just gonna be like, okay, here's your platform, go figure it out. Like right now, Alicia Thompson over there at Klaviyo, she's got her own docu-series that's documenting these small e-commerce. Actually, they're not too small. They're,
they're big.
big e-commerce businesses, but they're not big in a sense of like, big box store type things. You know what I mean? It's like these are entrepreneurs that had success with their e-commerce business, and she's like interviewing the owners and all the people, all the team members that she's seeing, and it's a really cool. And you can check that out at Klaviyo.com. I don't have a direct link, but just go over to Klaviyo.com. You'll find it.
All right, so let's talk about something. And all the BS is out of the way.
Did you give the link
to the group, ecommerceuncensored.com/Facebook?
No,
I did.
No, email.
I did.
Klaviyo.
Yes,
The Klaviyo.
Yeah, I did. ecommerceuncensored.com/email. And then I
sorry.
said after that, it'll redirect you to Klaviyo.
It's so natural. It just comes out as like a breath. He
I
breathed,
know.
and it's like Klaviyo.com/email.
Right, no. And if this guy over here would pay
It's
attention.
not even Klaviyo.com/email, Paul.
It's
see, I don't-
eCommerceuncensored.com.
I'm a rookie with the link. I don't know what to do.
All right, so let's give some context here. We have a listener here who reached out to us, and he has a little store of his own, but he works for a giant company, $700 million company. We think they've told us many different numbers, but we think it's around 700
They're
million.
big.
Right, they're big, and they tasked us with everything pretty much. Like they don't really have an online presence. They have mostly offline consultant type cosmetic company. So like almost like MLM, but not, right? And they tasked us with pretty much coming up with everything for their business. The message, the look, the feel. I mean, everything except like the bottle, the
Packaging.
yeah, except that. Like we just had to come up with everything.
And they have some assets. They have imagery, stock.
Yeah,
cars,
some
stuff like
videos,
that.
some stuff, but they really needed us to come up with the entire package.
Yeah, the digital aspect of their
Yeah.
product line and business.
And one thing that we are known for here is quick execution. And it's kind of almost a detriment to us because when someone hires us, we try our best to like get them results like yesterday, so to speak, right?
Most of them want results yesterday.
They almost want results yesterday. So we tend to skip some steps, right?
Yeah.
With these guys, they were kind of anxious to get going, but we weren't in a position with them to skip any steps. We had to go through a process, right? And we've learned some really valuable, very valuable lessons here. They're lessons that we've spoken about, that we know about, but maybe we just didn't adopt.
Yeah, and
so to speak.
I think for you and I, Jason, we're always very guilty of that. Like and I think Paul has actually been the voice of reason for us when it comes down to this stuff. We're like, let's just do it. Let's just get it out there. You're like, let's just put something together and show them. And Paul's like, wait, take a step back. And Paul's actually the guy who came to us this morning and was like, let's talk about this. What did you say? Authenticity?
Authenticity and intention.
Yeah.
Taking that authentic image that you have in your process and then implementing it strongly.
Yeah, and I think how that ties in though is like if you don't know what your why is, as we talk about a lot, if you don't know who you're selling to, I think like, dude, like I've always known about creating personas, and I've always read about like these big box stores, like calling them like by their name, like would Kerry like this or would, and coming up with, I just didn't really understand the value in it, right? But we did that exact thing, right? We came up with 2 personas for this particular client. And I can't tell you how easy it was to shift from the persona to what we showed them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the process just started from us thinking of the person and like who they are and like scenarios, when they'll buy, why they buy. And that totally helped us with like the overall message, which then translated in all of our ends, but on mine creating like the website. We were able to like identify which aspects this persona, the her in this case, because it's a predominantly female product, what stage she's going to purchase, what she wants to see on the website. And it like flowed so easy, didn't it? As opposed to like forcing a design together.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's not going to change a little bit when we start pushing traffic.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're having a difficult time identifying like who's going to buy your product, right? I would like go get a whiteboard, like go to Home Depot, like they're like $17.
Nail it into your wall.
Nail it into your wall like we did, right? And I think brands are guilty of trying to sell to everybody, right? Like when the big guys who do it really well narrow down exactly who they want to sell to, right? So this exercise, I think, scares people because they're like, oh my God, there's millions of people that are outside of my demographic. But like those people may buy, right? But like if you figure out exactly who you're trying to sell to, creating the visual side and the messaging side is easy.
Well, I think the initial thought about it is like, oh my God, this is a barrier. To have this, thought process and this brainstorming process is kind of like a barrier to like the end product. And I think that's what stops people from stopping for a second and looking at it as a whole and figuring this stuff out. Because now doing this, and now just the three or four of us looking at this and outlining it, the clarity that it gave us.
That's a good word to use for this.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, it paid us back, tenfold in time.
Yeah,
totally.
I think.
You know what's even crazier, and it's a little scary, but we got into it so much that the very things that we preach every day we forgot about, like the call to actions. Like there was like no call to actions on this. And we're like, oh my God, how did we miss that? And basically, I'm talking about a sketch that we presented them of what the website's going to look like. We forgot like to put call to actions, and like every day we're like call to action. We just totally, because we're thinking.
Yeah, the main banner didn't have any button. They didn't say anything. We're like, oh. When we had the call, I was like, oh wow.
Oh yeah, I was like
we were so deep.
We're like, hey, we're just kidding. We like we'll do it later.
We're gonna put those in. We just didn't right now.
And we were very enthusiastic about the message that we were psyched about it.
Yeah.
And we just breezed by that.
Yeah.
It was like secondary almost.
Yeah, which wasn't good, but we are in the preliminary stages. It wasn't like it was like do or die at that point.
Right.
But I wish we would have had them there just because they did mention like, how's it going to convert without any buttons? You're like, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Like,
and those are easy additions.
Those are easy,
where
yeah.
the message that we came up with is more of the focal point. And like Kevin's saying, it is intimidating, and maybe not even intimidating, but it appears like it's unfulfilling at first, right? To waste this much time. And you guys kind of thought that, especially Jason at first was always like, we're not going to waste a day or a week talking about this. Let's just do it. Like create it. And now we realize, like Kevin said, it pays us back, and it's saving us time in the long run by investing that initial brainstorming conceptual process.
right. So let's bring them behind the scenes a little bit.
Please take your hand off.
I know.
It's more distracting than you being on your phone, man.
We got to go to the store and buy him a new pair
Can
of
you
pants.
give
for the rest
him
of the day.
lay a blanket over his lap or something so I don't have to watch him
All
grab
right, so
himself?
let's bring them behind the scenes a little bit and stop talking about my crotch. So let's bring them behind the scenes a little bit here. Okay. So we went to California, right? We thought we were meeting with like 2 people. We walked after like being jet lagged and exhausted into a room full of executives, right? We can hardly, like, I know Paul is a young guy. It was no problem for him, but me, I was like falling asleep. And we walk in there, right? And it's very intimidating because, like, I mean, I've been in those situations, but I knew I was going into them. We didn't know we were going into this.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't really want to talk about the dynamic of the company, but let's just put it this way. There was a premium, a very stressed. It was imperative that we came up with the right messaging,
Right.
Because
look,
everybody was watching.
I think they're a great example because they have a proven product. They have a great product. They needed help with the messaging, the story behind, because that was like the missing component of this whole thing.
But the company has all these different layers, right? You have like the worldwide brand, you have the US brand, right? And they're always kind of like looking at what the other one's doing, so to speak. So there was a lot of pressure for us to come up with a
I think
message.
there was frustration
No,
too.
no. Pressure, dude.
No, not with
I mean,
like pressure on us, but like with them, I think they were frustrated because.
I know. Yeah, you're right. But you just were throwing me off my point here.
Okay, go.
Um,
U.S. worldwide. Go ahead.
No. Like, because the U.S. side hired us, it was kind of like their ass was on the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for us to come up with like a message and present it to them, it was like highly stressful. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I was really concerned that they were gonna like tell us that our message sucked because there were so many people there. But this process of putting everything like step by step, coming up with the persona, then kind of taking the persona and then laying out the website, then kind of coming up with a plan as to like how you're laying out the website so that it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I think you laid it out pretty well for people to like understand that, because you're right. It was stressful when we like went home after the first meeting, let alone even the second one, and we're like, we're supposed to come up with this meeting now, like what, in our hotel rooms? But then it took us a few days. We came back here, we just regrouped and talked about it, and then things started to flow better. So it just takes time.
Right. Well, but think about like when you present the message, like what can they'd be like, dude, like this is way off.
It was more for me. It was like it's something that they've been working on for a long time. For us to come in and create a message for them was a little stressful for me, and for
and
them to
that's what
sell
I
them on
mean,
that.
like-
So I think the reason why we were successful in this message was the process that we took to get there.
Right, which we don't normally do because we don't normally come up with the messaging. Right?
Exactly.
And I thought like, look, they're a big giant company. We're a little agency and they put a lot of faith in us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where for me, like I didn't want to let them down, right? Like I didn't want to like miss the mark with the messaging. And then when we got on the call and they're like, their comments are like, oh, let's move this over here or that up here. We're like, wow, we really
They loved the message. There was no criticism. It put them at ease. Almost.
Right. And which was an awesome feeling because, that message we had changed like 4 or 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Like you talked to your girlfriend, I talked to my wife, Kevin talked to his wife, and like we had all these different conflicting feelings about the product. Not in a bad way, but like what everybody expected. Your girlfriend wanted one thing, Kevin's wanted another, mine wanted another. And then as we're like getting on this board, like coming up with the persona, it just all started to come clearer and clearer and clearer. And it was such a worthwhile exercise that, and I wish I had a little bit more to do with the messaging. I was a little disappointed.
We all played our part. What do you mean?
You guys kind of.
Well, think about how confident we all were when we came up with it finally. Like, and then we
But
were
you
like,
didn't even. But wait.
What?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I don't even think you guys thought that was the messaging. And then when I came in, I'm like, that's it. You're like, what do you mean? Those are just notes.
Well,
I'm
I
like,
had said it a couple times. Like as we met throughout the week, I was saying I was saying it, but not until we actually wrote it down and looked at it and put it in order of how we saw the messaging and the story happening. It didn't make sense until that point.
And I think that goes entirely onto the authenticity. Like you were saying it and it was there, but until you like give it a foundation and it becomes authentic, we didn't just make up a slogan or make up this message. Like the three of us, like you said, through research, through talking to our significant others, like found real reasons behind why we felt that way. And it was like, it was indisputable. It was so authentic, the message, that even if they didn't like it, we would have been like, this is great.
right, because
of course they loved it, so it worked out.
We were like tasked with something very difficult, right? Like they were heavy on the science and we were trying to mold that with a message, right? Because we didn't want to like lose that, right? But putting this on the board, like going through different, ideations or
scenarios,
like coming up with different like messages. We started at the table at first, and then we moved to the board, and like we went through this process. And I guess the point is like if you're struggling to figure out what your store, like maybe you had a little bit of success, but you're not like blowing up, or maybe you're just trying to figure out exactly, like for example, right, last week with Josh, he was having a problem with his fish tank, right? So he just became like the answer to other people having that problem, and he kind of knew the story, right? He knew how to connect to these people and what they needed. we had to go through that process, and it made things so clear. And I think like we're going to implement that like going forward. I think.
I mean, if you can look at, I think the persona was so important because it's something we don't do a lot of, and get as specific as age, gender, income level. I don't even know what else we did.
Hobbies, interests, social life, what they like to do.
Married, single.
Their ethnicity.
Yeah. Get that granular with it, because once you see that person, you can almost, when you can actually visualize that person in your head, because I did when we were doing this. I saw that person looking at the website, and it just made everything clear, that how you speak to the person, what imagery you show, what videos you show to that person.
And like I said, we told them, like, we came up with 35 to 45, right? It may end up being 33 to 40.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're not going to know exactly until you start driving traffic there and seeing who's converting and who's not converting and who's, but it gives us a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And we know it's not 15-year-olds. We know it's not 19-year-olds. We know it's not 60-year-olds. So that 35 to 45, we're probably going to be pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking to a 40-year-old and a 37-year-old, it's probably almost about the same.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can be off a little bit, but it's such a nice starting point, and it really makes, it clear, like how to talk, what to say, what colors to use, everything, right? Everything, like that persona is going to stay there, and when we run ads, we're going to go to that persona.
Exactly.
When we do product pages, we're going to that persona. When we do landing pages, we're going to that persona. Everything that we communicate is going back to that persona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even though we haven't, like you guys keep saying, haven't really done that before or a lot with other clients, I mean, I think it comes full circle with us helping us figure out our why and our identity, because really, if we have the opportunity to in the future, I think that's where we actually are strong. It's finding solutions for these customers and clients, but we're doing the marketing. Like, that's mainly what we are now. We should be coming up with the branding and with the brand identity and message, especially because we're outside of the tank. We're not like seeing it skewed like people who are in the company and they're around it too much. I think that's where like we need to hone in on, and that's like we can provide solutions for people who are in that sort of position.
I think though it also depends on the client too.
Yeah,
depending on what they need or what their needs are from us. But I think more than anything, for me personally, I feel like this exercise really has proved that we're pretty good at this. Like, and we don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes, but like, I think we hit this thing out of the park, and I don't want to give us the credit, but I want to give the process credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the process, anybody can do that. Like, anybody listening to this can go through that process. Okay, who am I selling to? What do they like? How much money do they make? What are their interests? Do they have kids? Are they married? Are they white? Are they Hispanic? Are they black? Whatever, right? Like, whatever that is, like, and then you go and do the website. And then you go and do your email. And then you go and do your marketing. But you've defined, it just makes it so much clearer. And then, from there you can tweak. Maybe maybe our persona was like white, and then we saw that, hey, white and Hispanic like this, or white and black. Like, you can move it around a little bit. It doesn't have to stay the same, but it gives you a starting point, right? Like, you run a marathon, you have to start somewhere. Right? Like, there's always a start, and there's always kind of like an end.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think this is great for us too. I mean, we needed to do this, and I think we need to do this for ourselves, for our agency, for our podcast. We need to write down who is on the other side of this microphone. Who are we talking to? Are we speaking to them in the right way? Are we presenting our content in the right way? So I'm psyched, and I'm glad this came kind of at the end of the year, because I think it's a good opportunity for, New Year's resolutions and all those things. If you have a store, be like, okay, one of my things is I'm going to do the first week of the year is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to find out exactly who I'm selling to and how I'm going to talk to them. What's wrong?
did you hear
That
something?
bass is
Oh,
the
yeah,
music
bass
next door to the
mixer.
studio.
But anyway, I think it's a good timing. I think we've set goals. We're going to set goals in our business, and I think the first step to reaching those goals are to figure these things out. Why are we here? What are we doing?
Well, Paul started off with like a mood board type thing, which didn't really end up developing as much as we thought it was going to.
Yeah.
But I spoke to Kevin about this. I haven't spoke to you guys, but I want to get like vision boards in here of like everybody behind their desk or whatever, like coming in with pictures of like where they want to go. Like, what do they want to be? What do you like? Because this is something that I don't do, and I think it's so important. Is like, if you want to drive a Ferrari, like, print a Ferrari of a picture or pull it out of a magazine and put it on a vision board. Look at it every single day.
Yeah.
And you know, like, where the end point is, right? Like,
That's a great idea. And even maybe with what we're doing, like what kind of products you're into golf, like you strive to get like a big multi-million-dollar golf company that's struggling with marketing, and you can get that. I mean, put in anything that you're striving for.
Yeah, and I think what we should all do, and I think like coming in the new year, I was going to suggest this. I talked to Kevin about this. Is like coming up with our own vision boards, and then coming up with one for the company, right? The podcast, the company. Like, where do we see this thing going? Where do we see this thing being? Right?
Yeah.
And then it's much easier to come in every day and see those things. Whereas, like, you know, if you don't do this persona thing, if you don't do a vision board, you don't do these things, it's like it's easy to forget what you're doing. But this, like, we would like put a section of the email in and go back to the persona. Go back persona. Persona. Go back, you know, it's like always there, and it's so important. And I think it's particularly helpful for people who may not have it defined as well as other people. And I see it all the time on Facebook, people struggling with finding people to buy their product. It's probably not people that they're not having trouble getting people to buy. They're having trouble with the messaging to who they're selling, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
because everybody buys products. It's just like, who are you talking to?
And when even with ads, like when you can specifically talk to a person, like if you're running a broad, let's say, age range of ads, like you really don't know how to speak to a 65-year-old person versus a 25. It's completely different.
Right.
And when you have that clarity, it means a lot, and it can really help the ROI.
Right. For sure. Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that, man. You guys good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
eCommerceUncensored.com/email. Sign up for Klaviyo now.
Klaviyo,
Now.
our favorite email marketing platform.
you guys are gonna-
What are you laughing at, Albert? What's so funny?
I don't care if people stop listening. You should do it. It's going to make you money. Period.
And if you need more
End of
proof,
story.
go back and listen to episode 100.
Right. That really should have been our last one of the season. I mean, of the year.
What one?
We almost hit
100.
it. We were 1 week off.
Yeah.
What, last week's?
Yeah.
This one's good though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's
I think it's perfect for like
Yeah.
goal setting and changing things up. If you
Yeah.
if you feel like you're doing something wrong, like take a step back and look at it as a whole and just write it down. Don't just think it in your head. Write it down. Have it there visual. Like Jason said, these vision boards, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah. I definitely want to do that. That's something we're gonna implement. We're gonna grab
awesome
grab some things, stick on the wall. We're gonna come in with pictures out of magazines, whatever. You know, for me, maybe it's gonna be, you know, spending more time with clients on a golf course. Right? Maybe it's buying a Maserati, which I want.
There you go.
Maybe, you know, no, but really, I mean, I know it's funny, but it's not. Like, if you look at it every day when you come in, it's like you know what you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
And I think you have to be specific about it. Like I've told you before, like put a date to it. Don't just say, I want to buy a Maserati. Be like, okay, when?
Right.
Or I want to lose 10 pounds. Like, because that's obviously a popular.
I did that like
a
in 2 days.
popular, a popular resolution. But don't just say, I want to lose 10 pounds in 2019. Okay, when do you want to lose 10 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It means something. It's important.
All right, cool.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been episode 101. Don't forget to join our Facebook group at eCommerceUncensored.com/Facebook. Once again, sign up for Klaviyo, eCommerceUncensored.com/email. And I guess we'll talk to you guys in the new year.
Later.
Yeah. Have a great New Year.
Yeah. Good New Year's.